All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about the thyroid gland today, but we're going to look at it through the lens of one specific micronutrient. It's something that's absolutely critical for the thyroid to work, but honestly, it often flies completely under the radar. We're talking about selenium.
Now think about that for a second. Of all the places in your entire body, it's this little butterfly-shaped gland in your neck that hoards more selenium than anywhere else. That fact alone tells you that this relationship isn't just a casual one, it is absolutely fundamental.
So that immediately begs the question, right? Why? Why so much selenium packed into this one tiny gland? What is it actually doing in there? Well, that's the mystery we're going to piece together right now.
To really get what's going on, we have to zoom way in, down to the cellular level. See, the secret to selenium's power isn't really the element itself, it's about the special things it helps create. And that brings us to these guys, the selenoproteins. The easiest way to think about it is this. Selenium is the key raw material, but the selenoproteins are the highly skilled specialized workers built from that material. They're the ones actually on the ground doing all the heavy lifting inside your thyroid.
And these workers, these selenoproteins, they basically have two huge jobs. As you can see here, they act as antioxidant bodyguards and as hormone activators. So let's break down exactly what that means.
First up, let's talk about their role as bodyguards, or as some researchers like to call them, the antioxidant warriors. Now, this might sound a little strange, but their job is basically to protect the thyroid from itself.
Okay, so here's how it works. The process of making thyroid hormones is really intense. It actually creates a pretty dangerous chemical byproduct, hydrogen peroxide. And if that stuff was just left hanging around, it would cause all sorts of damage and inflammation to the thyroid cells. But this is where those selenoproteins, especially the glutathione peroxide ones, come into play. They swoop in and they neutralize that hydrogen peroxide, pretty much acting like a full-time cleanup crew, keeping the whole gland safe and sound.
Now for their second job, which is every bit as critical. Your thyroid mostly churns out a hormone called T4, but here's the catch. T4 is largely inactive. You can think of it like a key that hasn't been cut yet. It won't open any locks. It takes another group of selenoproteins, the deiodinases, to do the cutting. They literally snip off one iodine atom from T4 and bam, that transforms it into T3, the powerful active hormone your body can actually use. Without this selenium-dependent step, you're just not getting the active thyroid hormone you need.
So, we've got this really elegant system, right? A system of protection and activation, and it's all powered by selenium. But what happens when you don't have enough of that key ingredient? Well, to put it simply, the whole system just starts to break down. If you don't have enough selenium, you can't build enough of those crucial selenoprotein workers. And that means both of their main jobs, the protection and the activation, start to fail. And you can really see the fallout here. If you don't have enough of those hormone activators, that T4 to T3 conversion just plummets. And without the antioxidant bodyguards on duty, oxidative damage and inflammation start to build up. This can mess with your immune system and has even been linked to physical changes in the thyroid itself, like goiters or nodules. In fact, research has shown a really strong connection between low selenium levels and the two most common autoimmune thyroid diseases out there. We're talking about Hashimoto's, where the immune system attacks the thyroid, and Graves' disease, where it gets overstimulated. In both cases, not having enough selenium is considered a pretty significant risk factor.
So all of this naturally leads to a pretty logical question, doesn't it? If a deficiency is the problem, can supplementation be the solution? Can we fix this just by adding more selenium into the system? Well, that's exactly what researchers have been looking into.
And you know what? The evidence for it is pretty compelling. There are a number of studies that have found that supplementing with selenium can have real, measurable benefits. For people with Hashimoto's, it's been shown to lower those TPO antibodies, the very things that attack the thyroid. It can also improve the physical structure of the gland itself and even help with some of the nasty complications like the eye disease that can come with Graves'. And to put a real number on that, one major study found that for patients with Hashimoto's, selenium supplements drop the levels of those damaging antibodies by as much as 40%. I mean, a 40% reduction is a really big deal.
Okay, but here's where we have to pump the brakes just a little bit. It's not quite a magic bullet. As this quote from the scientific literature points out, the results aren't always consistent, and the overall clinical impact can be modest. So the science isn't totally settled on this.
And the reason the picture isn't crystal clear is because it's complicated. Whether or not someone benefits seems to really depend on the individual.
How low was their selenium to begin with? What dose are they taking? Even the specific form of selenium they use matters. It is definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So after looking at how it works, what goes wrong, and the debate around fixing it, where does that leave us? What's the big picture takeaway from all this?
First and foremost, the thing to really lock in is this. Selenium's role in your thyroid isn't just helpful, it's essential. It is not optional. Those two core jobs we talked about, protecting the gland and activating its hormones, that is undeniable fundamental biology.
And because of that, it really all comes down to balance. This isn't a situation where more is always better. It's not about megadosing. The goal is to hit that sweet spot, that Goldilocks level, where the system has just enough to work perfectly, avoiding the problems of not having enough without tipping over into the risks of having way too much. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important question. We know for a fact that selenium is absolutely critical for a healthy thyroid. But does that mean that for everyone, everywhere, more is always better? Well, the science so far suggests the answer is a little more nuanced than that. It highlights the huge difference between fixing a deficiency and just piling more onto a system that's already working fine. And that is the delicate balance right at the heart of selenium and thyroid health.